Hey everybody, welcome to the next video. So for this one, I really want to talk about a series that I completely love, but mainly I want to focus on an entry that I think received a little bit of unnecessary hate and kind of grumpage from its previous installments fans. And I kind of want to talk about the things that I think they didn't like, and then the things that I personally enjoyed and why I hold this particular entry in the franchise as pretty much one of the best games of the series. So today, I really want to talk about one of my favorite games. Monster Hunter Rise is just a fantastic game. Like, especially once you add the Sunbreak DLC on top of that, it's just a complete package, everything top to bottom. But there are some caveats that came with this particular entry. So first off, this game didn't really release in the best situation. It came out during the whole COVID situation, so the production was mired with a bunch of setbacks and things that just slowed it down at every single turn. It was so bad that basically the creators had to come out and talk to the fan base and tell them, look, we have a release date, but the game isn't finished. Now, we can either push it back and hopefully we can get everything done within the next whatever months and then just release the whole game full, or we could just give you what we have and we'll eventually finish the game, you know, within about a month or two, hopefully, that everything will be done. And so they decided, you know what, we're just going to release the game, and we don't have the very end of the story finished just yet, but we're going to add it in as soon as we finish each piece of it. And this led to quite a few people being not happy. One, they were already upset that the game was, at the time of its release, a Switch exclusive. So if you were a PlayStation person, if you were an Xbox person, if you were a PC person, too bad. You had to get the game on Switch for at least the first year of the game's life, or you had to sit and wait. And they even let everyone know it's timed for Nintendo. They paid money, so for the first year, we can't do anything with it outside of put it on the Switch. PC players, don't worry, it's coming, but you're gonna have to wait. And with how popular Monster Hunter World Iceborne was, it infuriated a huge amount of the new fans that Monster Hunter had gained. Because with World coming out, Monster Hunter made a quantum leap from being pretty much a Japan only with a little bit of a Western sprinkling audience to now being a worldwide loved game. So Rise being restricted to a single console and then not even being a completely fleshed out full game on release, it soured it for a ton of people. And then I also, in my opinion, I think that a lot of these streamers also ruined it because their whole goal was to get to the end game and beat it and try to be the first one to make this, that, and the other. And it's like, to me, Monster Hunter is just a game that you take your time, you enjoy the small bits, you work your way up through low rank the first time you play it so that you could figure out how this game's systems work differently from the last one, and then you figure out which weapons and armors you like and which ones you don't and what skills you need to go for. And you just learn the meat and bones of the game. But whenever you're just blitzing through it, trying to get to the end so that you could farm views, it's just going to hit differently. And with some people's attention spans, if they're not constantly getting something over and over and over, it's just they're going to run out of things to do very quickly. And then they're just going to be mad that, oh, now I don't have a daily or I don't have this to play. But I will acquiesce that they were right, that whenever it did release, even if you kind of took your time through it, you still finished the like village missions pretty quickly, and you got into HR pretty well. But I will say that The producers did a good job in making it to where it used to be a slog that you had to finish the village missions and then eventually get into HR, and then you just literally had to redo all those same missions over again, but now it's HR and the monsters were harder. This game did a good job of bridging the gap in that once you got to a certain point in the story, it allowed you to take like a hunting exam, and then as long as you beat it, you would raise your HR automatically, so that by the time you got to the high rank stuff, you could already be HR 3 or 4 or something like that. So you get to skip a lot of the mundane, easy stuff that you've already done, and you can just get to the later stuff. So I think that was a good way to push the game forward by using some of the old systems, but also allowing people to have an easier time breaking into the harder stuff in the game. And with that being said, the difficulty of the game, which is what everyone says, like it's actually getting kind of annoying now. With every new entry, especially since World, everyone complains, oh, this next one is way easier, and then Wilds comes out, oh, this one is so ridiculously easy. You have to remember, you have developed a legacy skill now. You went from a game that you probably didn't know anything about, that you now sunk at least a moderate amount of hours into, and now you have a feel for what you should and shouldn't do in the game. Now, I will agree, with Rise, because of all the wirefall mechanics they added in, you were way, way, way more insanely better than any of the monsters in the game. Your hunter in Rise is a madman. You could do all sorts of things thanks to these little bugs, and then they brought back a lot of the weapon arts from Generations into this game, and it just allowed you to go on this ridiculous combat power trip that the monsters almost seemed like, especially the old returning monsters from past series, that they were just kind of standing still sometimes. Because your hunter was allowed all of this new freedom, but they were still kind of working in the same aspects as older Monster Hunter titles. Did that mean the game was too easy? No, because people who were fresh into Monster Hunter when they got to play Rise were still having that same problem that any other person playing Monster Hunter had. For Monster Hunter World, it was Anjanath. People fought him for the first time and were losing their minds because they're like, oh my god, he's so difficult. Why is he so hard? But me, as I've played Monster Hunter from at least Monster Hunter 3 on up, I thought, oh, Anjanath was like, he was a nice fight, but he wasn't a roadblock for me. Like I had legacy skills, so I understood, how to use certain systems in the game. And so you still had those moments of, oh my god, I figured it out, if you were just playing the game for the first time. But if you had any type of prior knowledge coming in, then yeah, a lot of these monsters in the game you were just able to run roughshod over. And this was kind of a sentiment for even the elders in the game, because the elders are supposed to be the top tier hardest monsters in the game, and even they were getting treated like kind of children thanks to a lot of the new mechanics. So I do understand where a lot of that ire came from. You were just allowed to do so many things, and the game just they were having a hard time getting the monsters to compensate for it, and they didn't really figure it out until Sunbreak. The other part of the game that didn't really do well, and in my opinion also, it was a fun side activity, but the fact that they thought that this was going to be something that people wanted to actively do all the time, it was the rampages. The rampages were just, the main problem was that they were too long. If they were able to cut the rampages down to a little bit more succinct bits and pieces, I think it could have fared much better. Now, I still had fun with them from time to time, but the fact that a lot of the rampage weapons and stuff, whenever you wanted to make customizable weapons so that you could, set elements into the weapons or add extra attack or give you this or that, you had to do the rampages to get the items from those things. But they would end up taking so long. It was just, nobody really wanted to do them. And once you got like the tickets or the tokens or whatever it is you needed from those Rampage quests, you really just hoped and prayed you never had to do them again, because they just took a long time. It was kind of like the Zor Magdaros fights, or like the Jin Morans and things like that. Once you finally finished those fights and you didn't need items from them anymore, you never touched them again, because they were like 20-minute long ordeals. So the Rampages did not help the game out, even though story-wise, I thought they fit in pretty well and they helped break up the gameplay a little bit. It just wasn't something that was implemented very well, and even once Sunbreak released, they completely left them out. They never touched Rampages again. So by the time that they finished adding in all of the extra stuff, you finally got the final bosses, which were the new elders, and then they started adding, you know, some monsters and extra content. As things went along for that first year, Rise, I wouldn't say that it didn't fulfill like the usual Monster Hunter stuff that we expect, but it did feel a little slow, being that whenever you look at the world roadmap, they were adding things pretty consistently, and then they were also adding event quests and stuff that allowed you to constantly get new armors, or you got some new weapons sprinkled in and this, that. And so Rise, it seemed like they were really hitting hard on stickers and I don't know. They didn't want to give you like a lot of layered stuff. They didn't really want to give you too many things. You just got a lot of stamps, you got a lot of stickers, and you got a lot of emotes. And it just seemed a little weird for a game that would usually give you something more, that this was all that they were really giving you. So people really weren't impressed by it. And when we finally got like some really good events, most of it was just like Capcom type things. So you got the Akuma event where you can get his armor, and you could basically become Akuma, because whenever you use a sword and shield, it would disappear and it would look like Akuma is just using his hands and his fists. I mean, you also got Arthur. There was the Sonic collab. There was a couple of things in there that were nice, but overall it kind of felt, I don't want to say lackluster, but they just didn't do as well as the world stuff whenever you got to be Ryu or Sakura, or whenever they added in like the Resident Evil stuff, because RE2 Remake came out, the Leon and Claire skins. It just seemed like they weren't hitting quite as well as they were in World. Now, by the time Rise was coming to the end of its first year, they had added, I think they added a decent amount of extra monsters in. They added in some fan favorites like Valstrax, which was fantastic because you didn't see that particular monster since Generations. And it was cool to see it in a new like 3D, to where now it could move much better. Your character can move better. Valstrax was clearly where they were trying to push the game to, because that was really the first monster that was like really pummeling you, because it could move just as much as you could, and it could hit you just as hard from different things. But even with the addition of monsters and the way that they tooled things, a lot of people did not like the in-game grind of Rise, even though compared to World, it was pretty much the same thing. With World, you had the deco grind. With Rise, they did the charm grind. The difference was that you got decorations for defeating monsters in World, and you would just get them all the time. But in Rise, they went back to the old way of you can make all of the decorations yourself. You didn't have to farm those. But for your charm, if you wanted something with extra slots or something that added some extra skill points, you had to just randomly make them. And it was, I mean, really, the RNG meter was not working in a lot of people's favors. So people didn't really enjoy it. They didn't find a lot of fun. So that was just another thing that went against Rise. Now, presentation wise, Rise at the beginning was really fantastic, because they went with the full Japanese Ninja Village motif for the game, and a lot of the armors were really cool. And then they brought back some old armors from some other monsters, like the Ragi armor, things like that. It was just really nice to see a lot of this old content come back with a new coat of polish, and just to be able to see some of these older monsters back was really nice too. But in the end, it was a good mix of the new monsters being very well done, like especially Gos Harag. Gos Harag was like the best monster in the game, and then adding in some of these old monsters to really even things out. Now, after the Rampage problem, the Charm Farm problem, and not having the game ready because of COVID and setbacks and all this, they had announced the Sunbreak DLC. And they said, look, we've been listening, we've been paying attention, we're going to add in all these things that you guys are really hoping to get added into the game, and we're really going to flesh it out, and we want you to be prepared, because this will be a harder game in the end, and you're going to enjoy a lot of the content we're adding. So once Sunbreak released, people finally got to step into Master Rank, which I still wish they'd call it G Rank, but Master Rank is the new way we're going, so nothing we can do about that. And they fleshed out a brand new story, added in new characters. You got to fight in a new land, you got a new home base. I mean, it was really nice. And then they went in a different direction with the DLC. So with World, you had Iceborne, which brought in ice areas and ice monsters and all this. And then with Rise, with Sunbreak, they went with more of like a movie villain motif. So you had like movie monsters. So the monsters kind of resembled Dracula and Frankenstein and the werewolf and things like that. So it was a nice, fresh new direction for the game to take. And I think it actually benefited it a lot, because I think they could have stuck with the Japanese motif and really kind of dug into more yokai, but moving into this new direction, I think just helped them get a fresh like idea of what to add in, and it really helped the game out. I thought it looked fantastic, and a lot of the complaints were shored up with this. They added in some extra moves for your character. They added in some new Silkbind moves and things like that. They made it to where now you can run up walls without having to have a silk bug anymore. The dogs were still left untouched, and so were your cats. But then they started added in to where you could start using the characters in the game as your quest partners. So maybe you can't play online all the time, or you don't have friends. You can now bring in support characters with you. They expanded on things like that. They also added in a ton of new armors. They brought back old monsters that were from like games that they thought they could never touch, like with Espinas coming in. That was crazy seeing that monster come in, because it was a frontier monster. People didn't really think frontier monsters would ever make their way over to the main series, and lo and behold, there it is. They also really paid attention to fans for Sunbreak by asking what monsters they want to bring back, and then bringing in some really high tier, or I don't know, maybe not high tier, but really sought after monsters. Like Astalos coming back was huge. Mizutsune coming back, things like that. People were waiting for Glavenus at that point, but sadly Glavenus never made his way into Rise. Now, whenever Sunbreak dropped, they eventually moved into the Curio system, in which at the end of the game, the main big monsters, little Curio monsters, were still flying around and infecting everything. And so they would create new, which would essentially just become the new tempered versions of these monsters. And so the Curio hunts were, in my opinion, a fantastic way to really make you want to play the game more. The hunts would start out at a low Curio scientific level, and you would just keep hunting and building your level, and the monsters would continuously get harder and drop, higher tier items as they went on. And then you yourself could take those items and go back, and they allowed so much customization in this game, it's unreal. You would have layered armors, layered weapons, and then, in my opinion, this was the best armor system, even though I'm still kind of half and half on the old way that they did skills for armors And then the way that they do skills now for armors, it's still kind of a hit and miss for me. But the way that you could augment your armor to add in slots or build defense or add skills to it, it was just, man, like you could just customize everything to exactly how you wanted to, as long as you went and got the materials that you needed. And it was the same thing for your weapons. You could completely retool your weapons to where they would have extra slots, or you could increase their attack, or it was just the amount that they let you tweak the game is just insane. In my opinion, Sunbreak is just like the quintessential, you can have your cake and eat it too. But as with each of these things that I said, there also comes to Kavita of you have to put the time into the game in order to use it. So you have to do all the extra side quests, and then the curio hunts for a lot of players were just a slog by the time you started reaching the 150, 200 to 300 levels, because the monsters were just sponges, and they would hit so hard. Even the small monsters would just about one-shot you at the 300 level. So I do understand why some people didn't like that particular aspect of the end game by the time we got to the end of Sunbreak. But for me personally, it allowed me to do so much with armors and skills, and I could just personalize the game really to my liking. I was able to build so many cool armor sets and make so many cool skill sets for all my stuff. It was just fantastic to me. I loved it. And then, not to mention, all of the monsters they added in afterwards were just, oh man, it was just hit after hit after hit. And then at the very end, you get to fight Primordial Malzeno, which you can ask any person who has played the game, that Primordial Malzeno is just hands down the best monster in the game. It is one of the best fights. It literally takes every gripe that anyone had about Rise and puts it on their face. Like that fight by itself just makes you have to pay attention. You have to use all of the skills you've learned in the game, and then even once you learn all that, you just have to learn the fight straight up. And then I've talked this entire time without even really addressing the dogs. The dogs were just, completely out of left field. No one expected that whenever Rise first announced. And then once you get them, the dogs just operate as ridiculously good companions. They work right in tandem with your cat. And then the main difference is the dogs are more attack based, and they're meant to get you around the map faster, while the cats are meant to play more of a supportive role to where they can attack and they can help. But for the most part, your dogs can do just as much damage as a regular player online. So it was really insane to see not only them add this extra pet and then mode of transportation in the game, but also the way that it integrated into the gameplay, and you could take this thing online, so that whenever you play with other people, it used to be if it was you and one other person, one of your cats could come, but the moment you got a third person in, the cat had to leave. And then once you got a fourth person, it was just you and three other guys. But now you could bring one cat or one dog with you anytime in multiplayer, and they just came with you. So it was insane the amount that they allowed you to have. And then your companions were revamped with the dogs and the cat. It was incredible. But this also led to a problem. With Rise, there would end up being so much going on screen, especially once you got 4 people, each with their own companion, whether it be a dog or a cat. And then you had every effect on the planet just exploding in front of you. You would lose yourself very easily in the game. Like, you had to go into options and turn down the effects just to make sure that you could keep a good eye on what was happening in front of you. Now, of course, you could just, make your partner stay at home, or you could try to, with your friends, say, hey, look, let's just go us 4, leave the cats, leave the dogs, let's just run it. But it just became chaos. Like, Rise and Sunbreak was a lot of chaos on the screen at any given time. And even though it was detrimental, once you got used to it, it really wasn't so bad in the end. But that was also just one of the weirdest things, like the fact they were able to get all of this to work on a pared down RE engine for the Nintendo Switch. And then once they brought it to PC and then eventually to PlayStation and Xbox, like to me, I thought it looked fantastic because, I mean, I came from the portables, so like World was amazing graphic wise, and then I thought Rise was very beautiful. They brought back color into the game instead of washing everything down in browns and grays, which I was really happy about because Monster Hunter is all about being colorful to me. And so it was just nice to see all these things working in tandem, and just, I don't know how they were able to get it all to work at the same time, but they did it. Now, there were some caveats with the online as well. Like, they took out the voice chat because I guess they thought for some reason with the Nintendo Switch it just couldn't handle it. So you had to use alternative ways of talking with your friends. So you know, you had to go use a different system altogether. I don't know. Discord is nice, but it is kind of a pain in the butt when you have to use your phone to do chat while you're also playing the game at the same time. But I guess it's the same on PC. Most people would just use Discord instead of in-game chat. So you just took it as you thought it should be. But overall, in my opinion, this game just hit every mark, especially by the end. By the time everything was said and done, if you go pick up Monster Hunter Rise and Sunbreak right now, you are getting one of the most full, fleshed out gaming experiences you could ask for. It's the exact same as if you went and picked up the World Iceborne package. You're getting such a complete game that gives you hundreds to thousands of hours of gameplay. You really couldn't ask for more from any of those games. But in my opinion, Rise is just, I love World and I love Iceborne, and I put tons of hours across my PlayStation 4 all the way to my PC. But just Rise, it's just, I don't know, the combat is so fluid. You just get to the monster and you fight. I mean, there's just so many things that the game does that's great. And yes, I understand a lot of people were like, but Monster Hunter is about tracking the monster and about being in the ecosystem and doing the ecology. Yeah, that's true. But even on the older systems, they couldn't do that. You know, you had a loading screen between areas. There was only so much of the ecology you can get mixed into, and tracking was, you were throwing paintballs at the monster, and then in later series you could wave at the blimp and it would give you a short time of showing you where the monster is, and God forbid you ran out of paintballs, because then you were just screwed. You couldn't find the monster. And in World, eventually whenever Iceborne hit, like, one, the scout flies just told you where to go, but two, you could just use the riders and it would just take you straight to the monster anyway. So the people who complained that, oh, you no longer have to do footprints and the owl just lets you know where the monster is all the time now, is like, I mean, you, by the end of Iceborne, that's basically what you were doing anyway. So I don't see what the main problem was. But yeah, I could gush about this game forever. Like, I just think it's fantastic. I think you should give it a try. And maybe if you tried it whenever Rise first came out, but you dropped it and then you didn't bother whenever Sunbreak, go try it now with Sunbreak. All the stuff they added into it is just great. It just ends up being such a fantastic Monster Hunter experience. And I still feel that game has some of the best combat that Monster Hunter's ever seen, even better than Wilds. And I love Wilds for what it is, but I still find that Sunbreak just had the best of, you had the hunter arts and you had all these silkbind things you can do, and the movement and the gunplay and the sword play, and everything just worked really well in that game. So yeah, definitely play this game. It's one of my favorite games ever. It's fantastic. I would recommend it to anybody to play. Even a casual could enjoy it. And with that, that's the end of the video. So thank you for staying for so long. I just wanted to talk about this game because it's just one of my favorites. I hold it near and dear to me. I've sunk so much time, and it's still one of those games that I can jump back into and just go hunt my favorite monsters and have a fantastic time. So thank you for sticking around. Make sure you like, Give a subscribe if you want. Please comment, what did you like about Monster Hunter Rise? What didn't you like? Why am I wrong and it's the worst Monster Hunter in the series? Or why am I right and it's one of the best gaming experiences that you'll ever come across? So with that, thanks guys, and I'll see you later.